control
So
panel
we'll
to
continue.
allow all attendees to hear you.
So let's
This
try.
system will notify you once you begin your broadcast.
Just show this. Mhm. Okay. Now they got a lot of directives here. Now, if you look at AngularJS, they're like functions. If I want to convert from JSON for each, extend equals and so on. Is it to check a number? Is it to check a function and all? That's something we got it. Angular to JSON and so on. They got some functions out there. When I want to do some double click, when I do cut or include, of course, ngif and so on. So we got somebody called as ngRepeat as well. Now, assume that I have something like the array given. So I want to show the same name in a list or maybe in a li or ui. So I could do that. So on the verge of it, ngRepeat also takes something like first, the index number it can give. It can take the first, it can take the middle, last, or it can even show only the evens and odds and so on. Now, in our case, the pretty simple example is something like this. So div ngRepeat, so you pass the array value. So track by index or whatsoever, I can even go ahead and try tracking it with my own function. I'll try writing a JavaScript function. So in our case, we'll have ng in it anyways. So I'll try passing some names. I want that to be shown in a li. Okay. So let's try doing it. And most of the examples which you see here, it's all like self-explanatory because it's more of a. They also have this order by and so on. Let's go back to this place. And just one important thing is when you are trying to develop any AngularJS code, let me just go back to the browser. I click on refresh. Now, for the first time when it load, it always takes some time. Let's assume that there's a pretty long code and so on. You don't want to spoil the user experience. Now, what happens if I try? We know that JavaScript how it works. What JavaScript does is it starts from head tag, then it goes to body tag and so on. That's how. There's nothing called as asynchronous code. That's first thing. Now, when you are writing AngularJS code, especially, right, do not put your head tag or script tag inside head because till AngularJS is not loaded, the user experience will have really bad. It will look like, here I'm not able to show it, but in couple of examples, what we see is we'll see that curly braces repeating it again and again. Okay. Now, in order to avoid this script tag is generally kept as the last statement of your body, so that the dynamic values or the calculated values let it load. The static text will load first, and user experience will not go back. Right? Again, where to use it? If you are using a web application, this is the approach. If you're building a mobile application, the first one is better. I'm trying to talk the app. You're building an app, then you have to load everything. The web application, when you try building it, the Angular code should always be loaded. So you might have a lot of static text here. So let the static text, the images are all loaded. Now what I want, only this values to be loaded, let it load last, no problem, because it is trying to talk to the server and so on. Okay. So what I do is I'll just copy this code, because instead of typing it again and again, right click. Copy. I'll create a new file. New. HTML/HTML. I'm just gonna save this. I call it as app2.html, and there's a body tag / body tag, and this is where you have it. Perfect. I'll just copy paste it. Nothing fancy about it. Like you can keep this as a skeleton program whenever you want. The first thing is ng-app, so I put it at the body level. I'll say I have a div. Now this div will have ng init, which will have names. Now each name I'll give it. Let's give about 3 names. So, so these are 3 names which I give it, and I want to show it. So these names can come from any source. This is your source. Okay. I would say unordered list /ul. I would say something like in the list index /li. Here as an attribute ng repeat. I just have to check the repeat. ng repeat. ng repeat is equal to name in names. I would say name. So what we did, I am repeating. It's like for each statement here. For each names in, put it in name and display that name. Yes, are we done? This is names. This names. This is a name. So what happens? The names is array. Okay. For each name in names, print the name. So first time Sridhar will be there in the name. It's like an index position. It is a variable. It could be something like temp, and I can use temp. This is this array. So I would just for understandability, I have given it as name. Right. So let me just check. I'll go back, refresh, app2. Yeah, because that is all because of this. We have put this line at the last, so the user experience did not go bad. Just give me a minute. Okay, better is our Chrome. Inspect. Maybe there might be some error or something which I will. Okay, it has got some error. I did not enter names. It says unexpected expecting column 11 and so on. Let me just go back. Mahesh is right. We give equals. Yes. So let me refresh. Yeah, you see this? There is a curly braces here, and after that it came. So if you have static text, it would still there. But if you put that AngularJS code first, it means like till that is loaded, your screen goes blank, where the user experience would really be bad. Now I might have a requirement. Okay, I want this to be in uppercase. Perfect. Ah, yes, it's all in uppercase. Are we done? Okay. So let's consider one more. Maybe here we are trying to put the value just to get one more thing. We had one example somehow. We'll go back to this app one. We have. Let me just show you here. Yeah, this code. We tried doing this, right? We gave the first name, last name, and so on. Now here, I would use something like this. I will go back here in app one, right here. I just put a HR for a minute, and I'll say enter first name. Input type is text. Ng model is first name. Okay. model. First name. Just one second. I got some error. Okay. If I was just trying to show this two-way data binding, we'll do it with controller. Since this init values are already set, these values are not changed. So these line, as of now, we'll delete it. We'll get one controller and try doing it. Just delete that line. Again, I'll come back to that. So that's our original program. And just one another thing. Now, what has happened so far is when I have AngularJS, I have some init section, so I can set some value. But now, I want somebody as a controller where my controller will help me to get the value and so on. Now, something like this. You have init method, you have a service. So here, the service is basically your controller. So imagine that we have got somebody out there as HTML Okay. So when I say HTML, it's only the view which we have it. Now the data for this is generally posted with our expression, or it could be span, whatever. I don't know. Now all the value which goes here, the moment you try knowing it, this meaning it is coming from dollar scope. Now there should be somebody who will inject the value to the scope. See, scope is something like a glue between the data provider and data consumer. Now I will have a function. Okay, this is a pure JavaScript function. I will instantiate the value and give it to the scope. Now in my view, I'll say, hey, listen to this view. There is a value in scope. You try to show me. Okay, so we'll try doing it. Okay. Now let me just try opening like create a file called app3.html controller JavaScript function. Now it should come from JavaScript function. That's what your controller is all about. Yeah, it's a client side, pure client side. The controller on the client side. Okay, so let's create. I would just copy this line because, or maybe I will copy completely and paste it here. Whatever is not required, I will delete off. I delete off this part. You can try this. I will just save this. I say it as. I'm sorry, guys. It happened to be at 3. I call it as app 3. This is not app 3. This is like my file app 3 is of waste. I'll create like app4.html. Sorry, got it. So we have this ng app. This time the data should come from uh, your JavaScript function. So I would have a div tag slash div ng controller. So this controller refers to the JavaScript function. Okay. So this could be anything. I'll just give it as first controller. Then the name could be anything. So what your Angular does is it looks for a function called as first controller. I'll say in the paragraph data from first slash p. So let's get some data here. First name is like first name, last name is like last name, and maybe that's good if you give a HR or a PR so that it goes in the next line, or you put it in a paragraph. Full name is, it's a function, get full name. Perfect. That's what I gotta do it. Okay, so this is like a pure HTML code, does not know where it comes from and all. So here I would try writing script type is equal to text slash JavaScript slash script So this should be a function. So I will say this is a function which is a callback function. It's a function. This function will be injected with scope value. This will be injected by a scope value. Who does that? AngularJS does that. I would say $scope dot first name is equal to Tim $scope dot last name. This last name is this last name. Perfect. Now I would also say the full name. The full name is a concatenation of these two. So I would say $scope dot get full name. It's a function which returns first name concatenated with last name. Maybe here instead of giving it as first name, we got to say this as scope dot. So what we did, we called a controller for this div. Okay, I'll say hey. Likewise, I can have another controller. We'll have that in some time. Okay, I'll say a controller. Okay, this div refers to the controller. This controller, I have a view elements called as first name, last name, all these things coming out, and this person will load. Since it's a function, I can make any kind of calls here. It's just a function. You can make a Ajax call, or you can do some manipulation and so on. Let me just check. It's a small change. There's a function call missing. Just a function call, and I should have the output. No problem. Just go a little slow because after this we'll try writing a lot of code with copy pasting. But I believe that we'll just set out the platform. You see that? Yeah, true. Is done with that? Okay.
Basics are important.
Is that? If you don't have the Angular, Is done? Okay. So yes. Yes. So is done? Divakar done? Perfect. So now just having a look at this code, we are spending a lot of time in that curly braces missing out or the hyphen missing out. Couple of things which we can do, right? So when we work on it, there's an editor called as Sublime, right? Which is actually a paid editor, which I have got, but they are like pretty interesting. So if I want something like if I save a file here, just have a look at this. I'll say D drive, somewhere Angular works. I'll say app5.html. So I want a HTML. So you also have a plugin for AngularJS here. You have a plugin for jQuery. You have a plugin for most of the people. Since it's a paid product, they provide it. So it's like again using like Eclipse, which we have. Mm, no plugins for this kind of JavaScript. They have it very minimal, very minimal. They come from JavaScript. They don't come from Angular. So a lot of development is happening on this. You can try this. There's something called as a WebStorm and so on. But anyways, in our case, what we do is we'll not spend too much time in typing things and all. Let's spend more time in understanding the concept and so on. So I would just push some files.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
I'll just push a file which has almost all the coding. The only challenge here is to just we'll run through the code, understand and execute. Okay, so I'll go to my trainings. Here I'll try creating the one right here. Maybe if you go to drive, you will find this file. AngularJS. No, there's two folders which got created. I'll just delete off one. I'll remove one. I'll keep it as AngularJS. So there on my desktop I have, it's a Word document. So whatever we have done, even that is included. So we'll just try copy pasting. We'll run through the code and so on. Maybe we may have to use Eclipse for one or two programs just to write some Java code and send some JSON object, and we'll see how this JSON is all processed and Ajax request. We'll see one or two programs and nothing much. So this is where we'll use the code. I'll also open. You could also open that. Okay. So did we get that file? Right. So just take it. It has around 35 odd programs. Maybe at the overview level, we should be able to vaguely guess what those programs are doing. But when we execute, we'll get into the practice. But if we try typing for next 2-3 hours, we'll end up with like 10 programs, not like 30 programs. Or it will be like overflown for 2-3 days. Maybe here and there 2-3 programs are overflown for tomorrow, that's okay, but not beyond it. Right. So let me just run through. Maybe if you are on the same page, it's more of the overnight documentation which I've done. Of course, I have also got the file, but I'm purposefully not giving the files so that we'll spend some time in copy pasting. Okay. So this was the first program which we did. The second one is what you got. Only the names get changed. So that's the third one. So here in this example, I have even embedded the bootstrap. Okay. So just for creating a simple container. Okay. And I've got second controller, and if you see this, the first controller and second controller are pretty much same. So likewise, if you just have a look at this, I can have first controller which is part of this div. I can have another controller which is part of the second div. So imagine that this div takes the value from Java server, the other div takes the value from another server. Okay, so maybe you can go hand in hand with me, right? So I would just copy this part right from HR to this div. I'll copy and go back to my notepad. Here I would just paste it. So the first div, the second div. I have two divs literally. The first controller, second controller. And of course the class container you can delete off. If not, you can get this bootstrap embedded here. That's your choice. But as of now, I'll just delete off. We'll look into the bootstrap. So maybe hopefully if things go well today, we'll create a shopping cart as well. Okay. Something like adding, removing and all. Perfect. So you got first name, last name and all. What I do is I'll just scroll down here. I have the second controller. I'll just copy this and put it here. Perfect. So it's got some names. I'll use a lot of my daughter's name and my name, my dad's name, anybody whom I find. So you have two controllers. Now, if you ask the designer will design you the layout. So he will give you the div. The only challenge here is to give the value to the div. Right? This could be as fancy as you want. Forget it. This could be anything in the world. You could now invoke any server, because the view has nothing to understand or should not know who or what kind of server you are talking about. Until unless it understands the scope object, the job is done. The purpose is served. Okay, so let me just save and check. Maybe here and there we may land up with some spelling mistakes or whatever. Perfect, you have it. So this is coming from the first controller, this is coming from the second controller. That's what my code is. So we'll go this way today. Yes, no, or you want to type? The typing would be like, we'll end up only with that typo problem. You don't have to. But maybe now, the moment you look at the code, you understand what. That's more important. Just again, any problem, let me know.